Marvel Knights, Defenders. Yeah, in this video we're going to talk about MCP and the new data cards that just came out. Stay tuned. Hey guys, before we get into this video, it's like to ask you to hit that like, subscribe, and notification button. It really does help the channel grow. And I'd like to thank everybody who's done so already. Really quick, let's pay some bills. I do offer memberships to the channel where I like to grow a nice positive community. There is a link below that describes the memberships. Check it out. Hopefully become a member. There is some nice rewards and some inside the Monster Cave stuff. But with all that being said, let's get into this because this is what we all came for. This is a video about Defenders, the new data cards, and DD Daredevil. So let's just jump right in. Atomic Mass Games had put out some new data cards, specifically a lot of the new data cards that actually I play because I'm a huge fan of Defenders and I'm a huge fan of Daredevil. If you watch my bat reps before, you've heard me say Daredevil is my favorite comic book. He's my favorite comic book character. As you see, actually Nelson and Murdoch here on the signs of the bat reps. I'm a big fan of Daredevil, so him getting a leadership for Defenders is awesome. So let's kind of jump into some. I'm just going to get right into it, guys, just because there's a little bit to cover, and I'm not going to cover all the Defenders. I am going to cover Daredevil, what his leadership means, what the change on his data card was. I'm going to talk about what that does for Defenders in my play style, maybe not yours, but in my play style. And if you run and the options that he gives, I'm going to talk about the new Defenders data cards as well, which opens up some different. It actually opens up some different styles of playing Defenders, and not necessarily having to go Defenders Midnight Suns list. You could do that, but this also stops you from doing that if you don't want to. But let's first jump into Daredevil. Okay, I'm going to put the cards up on the screen so we can all see it. Marvel Knights, you saw the comic book, the Josh Loeb comic book I showed in the beginning of the show. Daredevil's card has changed. He's now got his baton hook, now has a pull, which is really good. Devil Deliverance, instead of having just 2 dice and rolling and getting 2 extra dice from any character around you, you now get 1 dice, but you're rolling 6 dice you get 1 dice for every character. Any enemy character within 2, but you're also rolling 6 dice. What we need to know is this: Marvel Knights, the new Defender leadership, is actually really good, and I can read it here for you guys. So once per game, it's a Defenders affiliation. Once per game, an allied character may re-roll a number of its attack dice equal to the number of enemy characters within 2. This is very good as far as opening up your Defenders list. It also is very good because now it gives Defenders another leader besides Doctor Strange. Okay, Doctor Strange is a very good character. He's a very good leader for Defenders. I like Doctor Strange, but at a 5 threat, he doesn't let you do some stuff that you want to do in your Defenders list. Okay, the also change is you get the Man Without Fear. You also get an advance with that, so you get some extra movement in that. And this is key to when we're talking about some of the Defenders changes. Okay, but that's Daredevil. So Daredevil goes from just being a 4 threat, maybe not worth the 4 threat, but going to now he's a 4 threat leader, which then opens up your Defenders list. So that's what makes this really good. Besides the fact that you can re-roll a number of dice depending on how many enemy characters are within to range 2 of you, which in a game that we have to secure objectives, you're always going to have enemy characters within range 2 of you. Sometimes that can tally up. You can have 1 or 2 or 3, obviously depending on the missions you play. Okay, so this is actually, and this happens for every Defender character, every character in your roster. So that's pretty nice. So this is really good. So him being a 4 threat, is nice because now you have an alternative to Doctor Strange. Him having a pull on his baton hook, which is range 4, which is pretty nice. So you can reach out, touch, pull someone off an objective to help you get the objective, which is again super good in this game, in my opinion. Him rolling 6 dice instead of 2 dice on Devil's Deliverance is also nice. Keep in mind that you get an extra dice for each enemy character within range 2 of them. So if you run Daredevil, I'm not saying to do this, but if you run Daredevil into the middle of someone or has 2 or 3 guys around him and you want to do Devil's Deliverance, you're getting, let's say it's 3, you're getting 3 extra dice and you're re-rolling 3 of those dice in the modification step, which is actually pretty good in my opinion. So Marvel Knights does do some good stuff. He still saves on blanks, so Daredevil is a little bit more durable because he's able to save on blanks against physical and energy attacks, which is really nice. So he just becomes a very good 4-threat leader in a list that I think needed to have leadership. Now I'm going to flash on the screen as I'm talking. I'm going to give you my defenders list because there's some other changes in here that I like to go over that actually helps the defenders play, and you can do 2 different styles. Again, my opinion, you guys might have a difference, but when I give you this, I want to caveat this by saying that you play your favorite characters, okay? You don't necessarily build a list based on what somebody else likes to do. Build a list with the characters that you enjoy playing, because if you let's say you're not a Daredevil fan, so this putting him in the list and running him as a leader doesn't mean anything to you because you don't like Daredevil. So so ultimately in any game we played at the tabletop game, play what you like to play before you decide, hey, let's go and play what is good or what's meta or what competitive lists are winning people are putting up. Play what you want to play is ultimately what I'm saying. All right, so let's take a look at the list. So obviously I have Daredevil, I have Doctor Strange as my 2 leaders, right? I also have Blade in the list because I think if the possibility of going over to a Midnight Suns list, I'm actually going to take that out because he's not even in my list because of going to Doctor Strange. He's in my list because he now has Pursuit on his throwing glaives, which gives me extra movement, which you've seen in some of my bat reps and some to come. You can see how important this extra movement is in the game. Giving an extra movement is pretty good. So we have, like I said, we have Doctor Strange as 1 leader, Daredevil as 1 leader, and I do have Blade in the list. I also have Scarlet Witch, I have Black Cat, I have the Amazing Spider-Man, who we'll talk to about in a minute. Elektra with the hand, obviously the hand ninjas. I have Wong, I have Ghost Rider, and I have Punisher, who is now a defender. So Punisher is now a defender. So some changes. So I'm going to really quick go through the changes and tell you why I play this list and why I think that this is a very flexible list. So those are the characters. So Elektra, let's view in on Elektra. Elektra now, real quick, Daredevil's defense also went up 1. So his physical defense went from 3 to 4, which also makes Daredevil a little bit more durable to physical. Plus, he obviously, like I said earlier, he saves on blanks. So Elektra's physical defense went also up from 3 to 4, which is on both sides of the card. Her ancient throwing blades, you also get, you gain 1 power. There's no more bleed on that, which is okay, but yeah, that's Elektra. We look at Wolverine, who's not in the list, so I'm not going to talk about Wolverine. Wong's power, he went up from 2 to 3 in physical defense on both sides. He also has Servant of the Supreme Sorcerer, which now says Stephen Vincent Strange, so he works for both Doctor Strange's and Supreme Sorcerer. I don't run Supreme Sorcerer in this list. You saw my list. I used the regular Doctor Strange because I like the leadership. Yeah, so Blade, we already talked about his ancient glaive, his throwing glaives, which gets Pursuit. little bit different here in Black Cat because Black Cat now offers the bleed condition. Her Master Cat Burglar is now in action, which takes away from some of her movement, which is okay because of Black Cat, because now you cannot, in bad luck, you can't modify crits anymore. So you can't do that. So I think if you kept the action and you were still able to modify crits, or not modify crits in this case, then it should be super good because you'd be able to Master Cat Burglar. You can steal the objective, then you can grappling hook, then you can long away, and she's virtually impossible to catch. And then the Amazing Spider-Man, which is another key to this list, and this is one we're going to talk about a little bit more, is the Amazing Spider-Man. Whatever a spider can now is 4 power instead of 5 power, which is actually really good because they added Master Spider Sense. When this character rolls a crit, he gains a power that is unbelievable because Amazing Spider-Man now, as we know, he is a 5 threat, but he was a power hungry 5 threat. So now we got him. So now he's not now he's a little bit more. He gets power and he can do more stuff. So let me talk about this list and what I think this list does well. So with this list, I can split this up into 2 different styles of play. If I go against something where I want to be condition heavy and I want to throw tokens like Hexed or Incinerate or any kind of conditions, what I'll do is I'll run it towards more of a black. I'll run it more towards of Doctor Strange being my leader, although he doesn't have to necessarily be the leader because giving Wanda rerolls with the Daredevil thing is pretty good, but normally you don't want Wanda to get too close, in my opinion. But giving Ghost Rider rerolls is pretty good. But either way, if I want to go more towards the Mystic or more of the conditions, special conditions, I bring in Doctor Strange, I bring in Wanda, I try to bring in Ghost Rider. You can still use Blade, you can still use Black Cat and Wong. But those are going to be my basis, is going to be either Doctor Strange, Wanda, or Doctor Strange and Ghost Rider. Wong is going to come into the list. And then you can use Blade or Spider-Man or Black Cat. You can fill in, not Spider-Man because Spider-Man is a 5 threat, but you can fill in your 3s and your 2s and 3s. Wong, I feel, has to be in that list with Doctor Strange just because he helps out with a lot of things with tokens. And he's a good 2 threat that you can put him in even in the long list that I play. With the Daredevil list, though, switching over, so that would be my special conditions. I'm at least putting in when I want tokens, when I want to give out the tokens, I'm going to put in Doctor Strange as my leader because he just does that so well. I'm going to put in Wanda because Wanda just hits so hard. And when you give special conditions out and then you're within 3 of Wanda, obviously you can't take them off. So that's actually pretty nice. Ghost Rider, I think, could be in both lists. If I'm playing a tall list, when I have some obviously when I have some center objectives, if I'm playing on maps that give me only 3 center objectives, I might want to go tall and bring 15 right off the bat, and then follow that up with, if I'm going like 20 or something, going with like Wong and another 3 threat. So that's kind of that style of play. The other style of play is when I use Daredevil as the leader, and I make it a very movable list. Like I'll play everything new, right? I'll play Daredevil, I'll play Amazing Spider-Man, so that's going to be 9 right off the bat. I'll play Blade, I'll play Elektra, because I think Elektra with the ninjas just gives you some extra attacks, and the ninjas being able to pass and new Ninja Vanish is really nice. And Black Cat. Black Cat, to me, I think has to be in every list because her Master Cat Burglar allows you to now steal things within 1 inch. Is still pretty good. I know it's an action, but it's still pretty good. And her not being able to modify dice on bad luck is still super strong. We saw him in the last bat rep that I did where Cable went into him a bunch of times. I took her to a tournament and she did very well. Very well. Surprisingly strong in my opinion, because you can't modify those crits. So that's kind of my so Spider-Man is actually a very key to this list, a long list, because when you see people bring web wires with their movability is hard to stay with when you have small movement. But Daredevil being long, Spider-Man being long, and being able to web swing, Black Cat being long, Blade with pursuit, and Electro with assassin step. Getting extra movement, I feel, in this game is actually pretty good. So those are the two style of lists I play. One is a very movable list with Daredevil, Electro, Black Cat, Blade. I mean, I can also switch out depending on the mission. I can switch out Spider-Man and bring in Ghost Rider, because Ghost Rider with his Highway to Hell and Devil Deliverance is Deal with the Devil is still probably one of the best tactics cards in the game. So we're not going to cover the tactics cards, because that actually adds to it. But there's a lot of movement and movability in one style list, and there's a lot of tokens and special conditions giving out in another style of list that I play. So those are the two play styles that I have with Defenders, and with without having to bring in a Midnight Suns list, because you could do that. You can bring in the Midnight Suns. You used to have to do that because Strange was the only leader. Now, the Midnight Suns part of that list is a whole different video that I'm not going to get into. But that's the two styles of play. The play that I like. I like to know what your guys' play style is, if you do play Defenders, and how you guys run them. And like I said, you can do a couple different things. I mean, you can still take out a 3 threat and put in Luke Cage if you're not a Electro fan, or put in Danny Rand, or whatever you want to do. I mean, this is just my style of play for Defenders. It happens to be doing well, but it also fits my style, right? It also fits my play style. And I think that's the biggest thing when you talk about these games. You need to talk about what your play style is, and how to fit characters in to your play style. If you like to play a tall list, which, if the terminology, guys, is if you like to play a tall list and you want to play, let's say we're playing a 20 threat and you want to bring 4 5-threat models, that's being tall. Or you play a wide list. What they call a wide list is you play a lot of 3 threats and 4 threats and 2 threats, so you can cover more of the board, right? So that's the two play styles you have. In this Defenders list that I just showed you, I can go tall with some 5 threats, and I can go wide. And of course, that all depends on the mission that you're playing. So that's a big key to it. That's why this list allows me some flexibility. I can go into lists like Dormammu, or like some big other tall list, Malekith, or anything like that, and have a fighting chance, or I'm not just trying to punch up all the time, meaning that I'm relying on some heavy dice rolls or some spiked dice rolls. It just gives me a chance. It just gives me a fighting chance against these tall lists. This list right now is I struggle in the small maps where I'm only playing 3 objectives in the middle with like Immortal Hulk. Like he still wrecks me, even though I can move all around them. Dormammu gives me problems. I know I have to really play almost a perfect game with something like Demons Downtown, or Flaming Portholes, or whatever the one is that you get incinerated, and you got the 3 objectives in the middle, or the 3 objectives this way. In this list, I like to play either like a D or an E map, which is big maps, where you got to be all around the board to get to be holding your secures, and jumping out early. That's the other thing with this, with the movement list of my fast list, with my Daredevil list. Jumping out early, trying to get like hammers or scrolls, or trying to get those extraction tokens. I'm able to do that. Black Cat, boom, boom, can get it. Spider-Man with this long base, one move, grabs it and comes back. So it's usually my first activation, because I can run up, grab a token, and come back. And if I have Daredevil or Black Cat on either end of it, like I run, now I make my opponent now choose which one of these they're going to lose, because they got to come up and get one of them, right? Otherwise, I'm going to have 3 hammers or 3 extractions right off the rip, right? So now if I get priority, I'm coming up, I'm getting one. I'm forcing you to get to if I get priority, I'm forcing you to make that play to run up and get another one. If I don't have priority, you already have 2 moves down. You can't attack, which allows Spider-Man to come in and hit and move and then get a hit off and do some early damage after I grab a token, right? Because initially you should go when you're trying to get secures, that your opponent moves, grabs a token, you move, grab a token, the opponent moves, grab a token, you move, grab a token, and usually about 4 or 5. That goes back and forth for how many secures. How many extractions you have, right? That should be the basis of how those extraction missions work. If you don't run it that way, you have another game plan. Again, feel free to tell me in the comments below because I'm curious. I've been playing the game for a little under a year now. I played when it first came out. I'm starting to play it again, a little under a year when my bat reps started hitting. So you guys see where I'm trying. I'm starting to build lists. I'm starting to understand the game a little bit more, and we're trying to just have fun. And again, I play this list because, as you see, I'm a big Daredevil fan. I'm a big Defenders fan. These are when you guys see my bat reps and you see my comic books over on the side on X, and when I'm kind of moving the right dice around, I have a lot of comics. A lot of it's Defenders and Daredevil and more the Marvel Knights type. So if you're watching Marvel Knights, we need that affiliation, early on affiliation from the late 90s, like 97 to early 2000s. Not when they started getting into it where everything was Marvel Knights. Just when there was a certain limited Marvel Knights roster. So that is this video, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you watching this. I really do want to hear from you. How do you guys play? How do you guys play your Defenders? How do you guys run your list? Let me just talk about Punisher real quick in this list before I sign this off. Is Punisher gives me the ability to play the game outside of the game, meaning that with his Blood Red and Personal, which is again one of my favorite cards, and I know we're not talking about tactics cards here, but because of Blood Red and Personal, I am able to score points outside of the regular holding secures or extractions. I'm able to score outside of points because that card allows me to, once I daze an opponent or kill an opponent, KO an opponent, I get extra VP, and that can be done by anybody. Anybody, it doesn't have to necessarily be the Punisher. It can be anybody on my team at the time. So that's the one thing of why I like. That's the one thing that why I like having Punisher in the list. He allows me to score outside, and that's why Black Cat comes in really well as well. These are the two things that work outside the laws of the game, I guess, outside the actual foundation of the game, where her Master Cat Burglar allows me to take an objective just off of somebody. That's good, especially in late game, and so is Blood Red Personal in late game. So that gives me the ability to score outside of just the average of just a regular foundation of secures and extractions. And that's pretty important, in my opinion. Being able to move a lot, being able to do special conditions with like Wanda and Doctor Strange and Blade with bleed, and Black Cat with bleed as well. Giving you those conditions are. We'll talk about Black Cat too in another video because I do think Black Cat is one of the more powerful 3 threats in the game, but that's a whole nother video we'll get into because this is about Defenders, not specifically about one person. But the conditions, being able to play conditions, being able to play a game inside the game, which is part of this game as well. You just can't run up with Wong and try to sit in the middle and try to win games with Wong by just running him up and grabbing something. You have to be more strategic about it. So that's kind of that's kind of what some of these characters do in both of my lists. So, and now I'm finished with that, guys. I want to hear from you. I want to hear how you guys run. If you're a Defenders player, how you run them, what your lineup is, what your list is that you like to run with. If you run Daredevil as your leader, tell me how you run them or what you run them with. If you run Doctor Strange as your leader, tell me what you run him with. I'm curious to see your list as well, just to share who your favorite comic book character is. Oh, and before I actually sign off, the winner of the of the custom billboard is Kyle. So Kyle will reach out to you. We will get a something that you can, we'll customize it with your name, with the logo, whatever you want. We'll put on there. We'll play on the video all through October. Well, you'll be featured in every bat rep, from 40K to MCP for the entire month of October, and then I will, on that last bat rep, we'll get your address. I'll send you out one, and we'll thank you for becoming a member. And with all that being said, guys, as always, God bless and peace out.